2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Inside Movies Galore. We are continuing a hodgepodge of films that we have decided to go on about, and this week is my choice that I subjected everyone to. It is, let me pull up the IMDb page here again. I think I have it right here, and it is Bloodsucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh. That was filmed in 1991. It was directed by Dean Tschetter, Tschetter, and it was written by Tom Tully and Dean Tschetter. I do believe that I noticed that Tom Savini was behind the makeup and special effects, so we do have that going for this. Legendary in his own right. And it stars Jake Dangle, Joe Sharkey, Susan Fletcher, Beverly Penberry, Veronica Hart, Sean Elliott, Pat Logan, Don Brockett, Michael Fairman, and among many others. And let's see what IMDb says about the film. Very short and sweet. 2 cops and a detective's daughter go after a chainsaw killer. So, going around the room. First impressions. Oh, let's start with you, Tammy. Was this a first-time watch for you?
Well, I guess not. You said that we watched it once before.
Yeah, because you remembered bits and pieces.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I thought it was a little strange. Yes. All the characters are definitely unique in their own way. That's for sure. But I don't really know what else to say about it. It's pretty much a slasher film. Everybody's just a little. All the characters all seem like a little bit off in their own way, but so.
Did you enjoy it?
It was all right.
Okay. Alrighty. Heading over to you, Brandon. Was this a first-time watch for you?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of this movie before. Before I actually, before you had talked about it. I feel like there's been a theme in your picking of movies in a way. Though it's not as raunchy as the previous one, it definitely has a similar sense of humor to it. But yeah, it's interesting. I liked it. Probably not my favorite, but I did like it. Cat off cat. Okay. Yeah, I like it overall. I mean, other than the cat trying to scratch up my comic boxes. This darn cat. But yeah, I mean, I don't have anything otherwise negative to say about it. There are parts of it that are a bit odd, and the one I watched was definitely censored, so I can't say whether I got the entire experience, but I got enough of it to understand. And that's my first impression.
Okay. What about you, Jake? Was I watched for you?
Well, this was definitely a first-time watch. I had never heard of the movie before you suggested it. and you described this month as a hodgepodge of movies. Well, I would definitely say this is a hodgepodge of a movie. And I guess the best way to sum it up would be the night before I watched this one, I went to our local theater for a double bill of two films by someone of some infamy, one Tommy Wiseau. I finally saw The Room for the first time and then followed it up with Big Shark. And paid $30 for the double bill, not mentioning how much I paid for the merch afterwards. And I watched this for free on YouTube. And I feel like I got a better deal on Saturday than I did on Sunday. And anyone who knows the reputation of The Room has an idea what I mean. Suffice it to say, I found this movie mildly entertaining, and it had its moments. And we'll get into some of those moments as we go. A lot of the humor, such as it was, did not age well. While the effects were toned down dramatically for an R rating, there still were visuals that I would rather have not seen. And there were several times where I looked away. And overall, it was an uneven film that did not actually cause me to laugh as long or as hard as Big Shark did, and not half as much as The Room did. That being said, it was watchable, and I'm kind of glad I got to see it, because how many people have seen this movie? So, and yes, Dave, you do seem to be on a kick of digging out the weirdest shit that no one's ever heard of, so I'm sure we'll have many more of those coming. Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, this has a 2-disc German release. So I do believe that it was a hit in Germany.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So,
but yeah. So like I said, I guess I'm glad I got to see it. It was, yes, this has definitely been a hodgepodge of a month so far.
oh yeah. And I randomly picked a copy of this up on DVD at Half Price Books one day, and I believe I took it home and we watched it. And I believe the company that put it out was Lucky 13 or something like that. The same company put out a copy of another movie that Vinegar Syndrome released called Slaughterhouse, which I still have yet to see. And I think they also did one more release, which I can't remember the name of. So I think I've got 3 releases from this particular company. And one of the, I believe the other one was called Evil Laugh. And I think Vinegar Syndrome might have actually put that one out too. So that being said, this movie was strange. And it was so strange that the concept of it just stuck out in my mind. I mean, first of all, it had the Egyptian, hieroglyphics that ended up being in the severed, dismembered bodies. And there was a body count, even though you only saw a couple of bodies.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there were at least 23 bodies, maybe 23 victims or whatever overall. Because when they were having the conversation between the two detectives, they were saying that there were 19 victims from Las Vegas.
No,
but
actually,
we'll get into it.
I think they did say 21 because she said it was something like one of the clues was something like 7 times 3. And I think she said it was how many there were before. Yeah.
But so it kind of reminded me of like a neo-noir mixed with like a slasher, mixed with like a detective story going on, a mystery. And what's funny is on one of the tables, while they were trying to figure out the hieroglyphics, there was a book that was just laying open with skulls on it.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually a book. Even though you couldn't read what the book was, I actually knew who wrote it because I have a couple of those hardcover novels with those scullies on it. Those were mystery novels written by John Dixon Carr. I didn't know the title of it, but I knew the author, even though it was just laying open. But anyways, we'll get into the story as we see it. So it starts out with what looks like a kind of a lover's lane scene where you're hearing different couples talk to each other. One of them, I think, was an alphabet soup couple, and then it finally gets to these two that are engaging in a sexual act, and I guess both him and her get their heads stuck in the window, and he gets to watch his significant other get her head chopped off by okay.
Sorry.
Before I go into wasn't sure if you were coming on because of you saying, but first view of this, was this a first time watch for you?
This was the first time hearing of this at all in any way, shape, or form. So, if you remember from when we did WNUF, I was really hyped on that fake commercial for Sarcophagus. And so I was like, oh, wait. And so when I found out we were going to do this movie, I thought, oh, wait, was that based off a real thing? So I was all excited for this. And, well, this movie is comparable to something called Blood Diner in a lot of ways. And after having seen both of them, if you're in the mood for something like this, watch Blood Diner. This was quite dry for the most part. Like, I did laugh at some of the jokes. It was pretty few and far between. The connective tissue between scenes was kind of slow. Overall, I think I may be biased towards this movie because I was extremely sleepy when I started watching it, and it didn't knock me out. Like, I wasn't bored per se from that, but there wasn't a whole lot going on that really drew me in. So some of the jokes were fine. It made a big deal about having Tom Savini, and I bet I know exactly why Tom Savini, did the effects in this. This was shot in Pittsburgh, and Tom Savini, he lives in Pittsburgh, so it was probably like, cool, yeah, I'll do that. I don't even have to leave my house, So I would bet money that's the story, and I mean, you probably knew some of the production guys too. Let's be real, but at the same time, you almost couldn't tell they were Tom Savini effects because they were very restrained. Like, there wasn't anything too wild in this. Which
no, but at least each of the
is sad
at least a little bit
considering
different
what the
from
premise was.
me. True.
And I think what hurt the experience a little bit too was somebody uploaded this in fantastic HD quality on YouTube, but they censored some language and they blurred out some things. So
He
I think
censored a lot of it.
I think we're kind of losing some of the stuff that makes this great.
Admittedly, though, in the hotel scene, when the guy keeps holding up that thing and asking if she wants it, when it's blurred out, somehow that did make it funnier for me.
I kind of wanted to know what those were supposed to be. Like I could see like a bottle of what looked like wood polish or something in the corner that wasn't blurred out, and I was like, "What?"
Polish the knob.
Yeah. Well, it made me think of something like Airplane, like trying to just have like goofy moments here and there.
Mhm.
But I don't think the tone was consistent enough for it to really work for me, at least. Like the scene we're talking about here, for example, when the cops arrive and start investigating, it's like, what was, he was wearing a hat, and they show him pictures of hats, and he's like, that's the hat, and then the killer is just like in the bushes. He's like, there's the hat, it's right there. It's like, yes, it is right there, and they're just like not paying attention to him, they're just thinking he's talking about the book.
Well,
And he's like
it makes no sense.
out.
It makes no sense that he's in a straight.
Exactly. That was kind of the airplane-nessed.
Or like the ridiculous convenience that they happen to have a binder full of pictures of hats.
That is
Correct.
that is fun too. Well, like I said, if I was in
It's random.
if I was in a different mood, I feel like I would have loved this. But if you're already kind of tired and looking for something to really like jumpstart your brain, this maybe was not the pick. So, but I am happy I saw it. It did well. I was listening to a review of Brian Usna's Society earlier today, and somebody made the joke that one of their friends rates the movie as first 90 minutes, 1 star, last 15 minutes, 5 stars. So I think I am of a similar mind about this movie, whereas the finale was definitely a lot more interesting and kind of what I thought we would be getting for more of the runtime. So, all said, well, I guess I've kind of repeated myself a few times, but it seems like this would be more fun in the right mood. So, and I don't think I was in the mood for it today, but I'm happy I saw it, and it was fun. If I had to like star rate it, I'd probably give it like 2 out of 4, like a neutral rating. So, but some of the jokes were pretty funny.
Holy crap, the guy that played the police chief had a recurring presence on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
I hope he wasn't trying to shoot Mr. Rogers like he is the other guys.
Was he that was the guy who like fighting randomly, right? It's like, that's why your wife left you and married me. It's like, oh yeah, well,
No.
But,
The chief.
Oh, that was another guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, also, I do want to point out too, the copy I watched was very dark to the point it was difficult to tell people apart if they weren't in completely different outfits.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen an unedited, clearer version of this particular one.
I wonder if I could find that. I recently discovered a pretty good source of stuff that so far has had almost everything I've looked for on it.
There is supposedly a really nice.
I feel like this would be a physical release from like Scorpion or somebody weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you there. There are some German releases. of this, as Dave says. I'm not sure I want to pay $54 for the Blu-ray though.
Jeez. No.
I mean, if you're
Or
gonna pay that much,
$129 for the
buy
Blu-ray.
Trick or Treat from Synapse. I
Yeah.
was forced to miss out on because life is awful until you mercifully die from whatever. But digression aside, on fancy collectoralism, yeah, I wonder if maybe that was the source for the copy that we saw, because it was just posted on YouTube,
Yeah.
legally
one's-
somehow,
Nice.
it would seem, because
Nobody knows about it.
well, in the comments, people were like, "Why is it censored?" And they had like a canned response ready for it, like, "We are a fully legal and monetized channel. We obey all the rules." It's like, yeah.
If that wasn't a bot, what was it? But
I think it
In
was
any
just a
case.
copy paste. So, but
Well,
now we begin the 40-minute stretch of nothing happening.
well, believe it or not, there is. It starts with a killing that happens to a couple of lovers who are sitting on what looks like a lover's lane type area,
Yeah, I'm
and
talking about after that.
It reminded me of
her
the
head,
parody.
her head is cut off and her brains are taken as they are starting with the crime scene, and we have two detectives who end up showing up, Sweeney Birdwell and Joe Blocker. Joe Blocker seems to get sickly at anything gory that
Mhm.
happens, and I do believe that his police cohorts are in on a private joke about how he's a woman hater and how he really gets sick like that, and I guess because of some sexual thing that happened in his life, they make fun of him whenever he's
Well,
on the scene.
basically, he is traumatized from what happened in Vegas, which we eventually come to find out about. And he went into a downward spiral where he's in his job and his wife left him. And then no one ever stops at that. They all go to the very end where, yeah, because he had sexual performance issues. And it's like somehow that's the most important thing. And it's like,
I don't know why, but that first scene at the beginning with the lover's lane or whatever,
yeah.
it reminded me a lot of the first scene in The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Now, I'll admit that scene was a good example of what was scattered throughout the movie. I think if they had a more consistent tone and leaned harder into the absurdity of it all, like that first scene, the lines were so obviously stilted and scripted and not at all natural that it actually was moderately amusing. And there were moments throughout the movie that had that, but they weren't consistent with it. And I think maybe if they'd leaned harder into the absurdity, I would have enjoyed it more. But
I feel like the movie was
Completely
trying to
agree.
be more serious at times, so tonally you got a little whiplash.
yeah, a little bit.
Little tonal whiplash, not a lot. It's not like severe, but definitely some tonal whiplash.
Right.
Well, like I said, I completely agree,
And then
and
Mad
that's exactly how I felt for a lot of it. Although I did enjoy, it's sort of coming back to me a little bit better. Did anybody catch like some of the dialogue in there with how like it switched up after a point? Where the girl was like, "Oh, I don't know," and it's like, "Come on." It's like, "Well, okay," and then it's like she's beating his ass. It's like, "Yeah, come on." And he's like, "Oh no, stop." Did anybody else notice that? It's like, oh, that's a little unusual. So
Yeah.
I will give this movie some praise for doing some things that you usually don't see.
Well, it almost
So,
Have you seen some, Dave?
Dave,
Huh.
did he die?
I don't know.
killers
Because getting
have this machine.
well, they showed the killer from like weird angles like all the time, and that really masked who it was. And
Yeah.
They
It
did a
wasn't
good
really
job of hiding the killer. I agree.
Indeed.
I did not. I'll admit, I did not guess who the killer was at the end, which is very rare. I'm usually pretty good at guessing at the end of this, but that one kind of. I didn't think it was the one guy that they red herringed, but
Yeah.
but I did think that he was related to it. So
The red herring was very obvious, but yeah, the actual
Well, they-
killer.
usually I'm smart in this, but I gotta confess they baited me pretty good with that. It's like, yeah, it's the guy, right? Because they show him like leading goons and having minions and shit, and it's like, oh,
and kind of stage prepping somebody for being murdered.
Yeah, pretty much.
because it led you to believe it's like, oh yeah, it's some kind of cult doing this.
They did get me on that.
Nope.
All right.
I thought it was some sort of
Yeah, they
Bubba
did get
Hotep
me on that
scenario.
the first time around.
Hmm.
Except it wasn't Elvis reincarnated.
Hmm.
Well, he wasn't Bubba Hotep, but Elvis was one of the ones that saved a lot.
Right? So,
I need
But
to rewatch that
in
one.
any case, so
It's pretty great.
it seems like the killer is going after ladies of the night, or what you would consider prostitutes or hookers.
Right.
And
People are just getting whoever they can, really.
as the film progresses, Joe Blocker, the one detective, does mention that he knew all of the victims
Right.
in some way, shape, or form, and he said that to his partner, even though his partner was always trying to joke with him about his situation and whatnot. He really razzed him a lot. Because he kept trying to tell him to stay quiet in that one restaurant, and he kept just saying it louder and louder.
Mhm.
But like Jake, you said, eventually we find out that he was traumatized from his partner. His previous partner had gunned down someone in Vegas and traumatized him so much that it ruined his marriage. He basically went off the deep end, and then now he moved to Pittsburgh to be on the police force, and everybody makes him a laughing stock while he's there. And then, of course, eventually, through this whole mystery of victims that start to show up, he is eventually accused of being the murderer in this whole thing by that one police guy. And but on the other hand, we also have Sweeney, who has an interesting partner in a wife. Evidently, she has
Yes.
a very serious obsession with smoking.
And we're introduced to her like he's standing outside, and you see just all these old cigarette butts just completely going up all these stairs.
And
Yeah,
Really?
That
it was
whole
kind
thing
of crazy.
Very weird. Kind of the weirdest part of the movie, honestly, because it's like, why is she here? Because for most of the movie, she doesn't really contribute anything other than be weird.
But it was one of the funnier things in the movie, and ultimately it does have sort of a payoff.
It
The
does.
smoking and then,
She's-
yeah.
It does.
Obsessed.
It was just very well, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I guess
Yep.
before we get there, really.
Back to the tonal
Yeah,
whiplash.
because she-
Yeah.
Exactly.
ends up later on.
I'm not gonna lie.
Which
the whole
is
thing with
probably
the
one of the
wife-
more comical moments in the film. In fact, her whole going to this smoke aid to get rid of the smoking is probably one of the funniest bits in the whole.
Yeah, that they had her watching these videos
Because she
Yeah.
she watches that documentary on all the
A documentary on what? Oh, cat. Well, what was the what was
a
it on, Dave? You
documentary
cut out.
where people are just smoking.
Oh
It
yeah.
seems like during the 1940s and 50s, they used to have these types of like these things that you would think would make people stop smoking, but it definitely wasn't working for her.
So let me go through this as a professional in
And
terms of therapy.
so when she picks up her first smoke, down, and then these three men in ape suits come and hose her down, that is just hilarious.
So let me run this down real quick as a therapist might break this down in a because this is technically my field of work, though I've never done any of that, nor have we used ape suits to help people stop smoking. Part of it's a double thing, and they kind of took this a little bit from Clockwork Orange as well, by basically having her watch something that would trigger her purposefully to smoke, but also associating film-wise all the people smoking with death by having them meet gruesome ends, like the first film with the building going down, the second one with the people smoking in the airplane, and the people smoking in the building, the people in the airplane crashing into the building with the people smoking in it. And then whenever she would pick up a cigarette, and they encourage her heavily to do so, so that they can go and basically physically assault her every time, hoping to associate the pain with the smoking. But her compulsion to smoke was so terrible. You can tell how terrible it was anyway, because she'd already had a trach thing.
And apparently she was wearing out the batteries really bad.
Sorry, Dave.
I hate to say this, but Erna, actually kind of reminded me of the woman that was always on those stop smoking ads. The one that eventually died, I guess.
Well, as much as she smoked, I would say that she probably was well on the way of that. But then again, she's pretty resilient considering what kind of she put up with. So you never know. And then, of course, some of that actually did come back, because a lot of that electrical did seem to hold on to her towards the end of the film. So, I mean, I can understand. I mean, my wife nearly died, and that's what got her to stop smoking. So sometimes it takes a near-death experience to do it. Not sure if it would work for this person, but But that's my therapeutic breakdown. Sorry, Dave. I'll let you get back to it. I just thought it would be fun to show my thought process with that.
It is interesting that those films that they made her watch, like if you look at the anti-smoking ads, PSAs and whatnot, or even if you look at like the films of old Hollywood where smoking was cool, I don't think there were as many people smoking or as much smoke in the air in those as there are in these films.
Oh, I thought it was hilarious.
That was one area where they did go all in. You know what I mean?
My favorite part in this entire film was this whole segment. I don't know. It just, and the fact, and specifically the part where they had the people smoking in the building, the people smoking in the plane, and then the plane was going out of control and crashes directly into the building with people.
I forget. They didn't show a scene. They didn't show a scene of the pilot sliding up, did they?
I don't remember.
That would have made perfect sense, but I don't remember seeing.
I had to rewind that part a little bit because I was like, "What in the fuck did that actually happen?" Because like I looked away for a split second at my phone when that segment started, like an idiot, and then I looked up, and suddenly this plane is crashing into a building with a giant fireball, and I'm like, "Wait, what?" And like, oh, they're watching a movie, okay? Because it was very sudden. I was so lost.
That part was very funny for
me. That
I'm not saying it wasn't great.
It was whoever filmed that did know how to.
I love that at the very end of it, they're like, okay, this isn't working, so we're going to try one more thing. And then they just bring in this one tough-looking dude, and they encourage her to go ahead and light up. Then he just punches her directly in the face.
She kind of became...
like, really hard, too. Just, like, straight shot. Like, you can tell he broke her nose with that.
Yeah, like, what was it? I think they started, like, she lit up and they brought in, like, a fire hose on her.
It was a bunch of people dressed in ape suits with freaking fire extinguishers.
And then she had the cattle prods.
Yeah, the fucking the Jurassic Park cattle prods. Like,
yeah. That, I'll admit, if the movie was more consistently at that level, I probably would have liked it more. I think the movie is good overall, but I would have been like heavily looking for it if the entire movie was consistently at that level of just craziness, because it really was.
And I will admit, another aspect that I did enjoy, we talked a little bit about the police chief. I don't remember really any of the quotes from the film, and IMDb isn't helping me there. But like some of the things the chief said to them, the way that he just went off on them, it kind of amused me.
Or he's trying to kill him with the gun.
Yeah, no, there something like at one point, I feel like someone told him, no, you can't do that. And he had a reaction of, why not? Sort of like. And I'm trying to remember what that reminds me of, because I know I've seen that in another movie, and I can't remember. It's right there, and I can't place it. But I don't know. See, I almost feel like that was it was kind of like, and I wonder if this was something they were going for. Chief Inspector Dreyfus and his vendetta against Inspector Clouseau in the Pink Panther movies. Like, it was almost like that in a way, but of course that's a much funnier series. But you know, another one that has elements that haven't aged well, though.
Yes, indeed. But still, you see, and that's one thing I thought about when trying to do the new series that I've thought about is sometimes things don't hold up well, but they can still be enjoyable at a certain level. I do think that one can forgive certain things, and we were talking about this the other night with me and Kim about the concept, because I thought it was a pretty cool concept of looking at old films and seeing how well they hold up, not just with people and just current like things, but are even people on like the right who have that whole like anti-woke thing, because that kind of gets contradictory too, because a lot of those films would be considered very woke by those standards, by those terms in the old days.
It's because they're older that they get grandfathered in. That's
Yeah.
why the whole thing is that's why the whole thing is kind of
Very
invalid.
inconsistent.
So
Like,
inconsistent.
One could say this one is highly progressive in its anti-smoking stance, but on the other hand, the way everyone Dee Dee shows a tremendous amount of sexism and ageism, because they treat her like a little girl, and she's clearly the most competent one.
Yeah. But of course, having her be the most competent character also at the same time
Right.
still makes it kind of progressive in that, because it shows them that they're wrong.
That's like I say, it's kind of mixed.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag.
And in a sense, though, it's one of the reasons I had much less sympathy than I probably would have otherwise. For like Sweeney, I had some sympathy for. I mean, he's saddled with a terrible partner. He's saddled with a chimney of a wife. He kind of amused me, but Joe just didn't interest me.
Joe was abrasive as heck.
He was abrasive. And I know that was apparently part of the joke. Like that was, and you could easily say, well, that was just his character or whatever. But I know, Brandon, I know one of your cardinal rules with movies is you have to like the characters. And I think one of the reasons I didn't like this movie more was that I actively disliked Joe.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
I can be okay with the movie if I dislike the characters, if the movie is entertaining.
Right.
And I can sort of give a pass. It's a lot harder though. I can sort of give a pass if the movie is boring, but I really like the characters. But it's that's a fine line. But if the movie is boring and I don't like the characters, it's a shit movie. But that's, and no, I'm not gonna say that. Like, I'm not gonna say I consider any movie a total shit movie, because I don't think that there's such a thing as a bad movie. But as far as movies that I don't like, there's plenty of those, and those are movies that are boring with characters I don't like.
Like Artifacts.
like Il Postino. That's a good example.
Well, you may be one of the handful that would say that.
Or American Beauty.
Oh,
Such a horrible movie, American.
I need to rewatch that one.
But
evaluate my stance.
But the movie we were talking about originally was Revenge of the Nerds, and we were thinking to ourselves, and the question would be: is there a standard that could be so horrid that both left and right wing could agree with each other that no, this does not hold up? And the scene we were talking about was the scene in The Nerds where basically the guy uses the mask, pretends to be the girl's boyfriend, and has his way with her, which was basically rape.
Yeah.
Well, not basically, it was rape. And I'm like, I don't care how far right you are, that should not be something you agree with either. But it's like maybe there are some things that just don't hold up for either side, which I don't know if there's any that go that far in this movie, but that's an interesting thought or concept.
Well, we'll get to some of the most problematic aspects of this one later on. We haven't really gotten to that point in the movie. But like I said, right now, Joe's behavior is probably the roughest part so far. But,
Yeah, because they're waiting on this contact, essentially, that can help them identify, hopefully, the killer, or has an edge on it because they've been dealing with some similar stuff to it in Vegas.
Right.
What they don't realize is that they're expecting some dude, and ends up actually being a lady.
Well, what was his Deke, I think it was.
Yeah, D something. I can't, because
and it was either Joe's partner. Was it his partner, or was it just a fellow cop? Or I don't remember. I think it was his partner.
Yeah, it was one of her, like one of the people that he knew out there, and she was, of course, his daughter or something.
Right.
Oh yeah, she was his daughter.
Yeah.
And it was Dee Dee, but the first initial was the same, so they thought it was different.
Yeah, Dee Taylor. Yeah. Yeah. And she comes out and tells him, well, yeah, my old man's gone missing, And guess what? So is this other guy who was involved in the case in Vegas. And yeah, so she comes out actually with theories and exactly what they wanted, which was a way to bring something to the case, But again, they're like, we're just taking you right back to the airport,
Even though she's clearly the most competent of all of them.
Right.
Dave, we just forwarded the story enough to where Dee Dee comes in.
Okay. Yeah, Dee Dee's a meter maid that,
Yeah.
I don't know. She's always burping, and she seems to think that she knows exactly what's going on. She's followed her father's case, which I guess her father is missing, and we find out later that he's been kidnapped by the perpetrator. So,
For some reason, every time,
definitely an interesting character.
I keep thinking of the Beatles song, "Lovely Rita, Meter Maid."
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, she okay. So if I remember correctly, Blocker, he had his chief forward a check to what he thought was a male version of her, and she showed up, and he's at this down moment where you think he's going to blow his brains out, but it in fact is just a liquor squirter.
Oh yeah, I guess it must be a water gun or something that he likes to use it to shoot liquor.
That's something that did end in the 80s, early 90s, was the realistic squirt guns.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody remembers them, the Pez guns that they used to have.
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those.
I was watching Child Play 2 recently, and Chucky even has one of those.
Yeah.
Surprise, you're dead.
Yeah, actually, one of the reasons why the chief is so upset with them is because they used company funds.
Eating your microphone.
What's that?
Somebody's eating their microphone.
Yeah. They were basically using police resources to pay for her plane ticket. Again, thinking it was the father, but still, the chief was like, why are you using our police money for this? What are you, just gives them almost reads them the riot act for doing this. And he's
Damn
like,
it, McGonagall!
What's that?
Damn it, McGonagall! The Simpsons police chief from the McBain.
Yeah. Yeah.
That speech. You loose cannon, you can.
Although I feel like this chief is at least a bit more, a bit less incompetent than Chief Wiggum. At least a little less. But yeah, it's interesting. And we come to find out that the killer does know Dee Dee's background, because one of the killings pretty much taunts her by talking about a meter maid. I think he impaled the victim with a meter, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think there was something about that, and she definitely does come.
It's very deliberate.
Yeah.
They have some kind of they have a portable generator, and they use high power tools,
right?
The kind that need to be plugged in for all their kills,
like chainsaw, a
corded chainsaw, there's a leaf blower, and in this particular one, there's it's a jackhammer.
Yeah, shot back at one point.
Somehow they rip a meter. well, I guess they use the jackhammer to get the meter out, but
Right.
there's like a meter in the victim's body.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but a shop vac is powerful, yes, but not quite as powerful as the.
It wouldn't be able to pull your guts out like that. I don't
It's a really good shop vac.
It's a really good shop vac. I wish my shop vac was that good.
Did they specify whether it was like an industrial shop vac? I feel like they did, but still,
it looked like a leaf blower. Like, so it had, the tube was really huge on that thing.
yeah, it was. It's crazy.
Because I can tell you, I've got a shop vac here, and it's fairly decent at what it does. It can pick up some stuff. I used it when the basement flooded. It really helped. Matter of fact, it kept the second time the basement flooded, it kept me from having to replace things. But
you weren't kidding about how much more quickly that dehumidifier filled up.
yeah, I mean, it's just that one in the basement is just it's all water around there. But
it's crazy.
I ended up, but I tell you, that thing could not rip your intestines out. So even in the best of days,
right? Yeah.
But a lot of this is that she's the one who puts it together. And she had put it together in not Egypt, in Las Vegas, that they had been taking various parts and organs of various people that they had gotten, various like women of the night, so to speak. And she was the one who managed to tell them where to go, which was to Little Cairo.
And it's kind of interesting when you think about it that that Joe happens to know apparently all the ladies of the night from Las Vegas. I mean, that's a lot of people he must know.
He wasn't having problems back then.
And we wonder if, did his wife really leave him because of ED or whatever? Or was there maybe something more to it?
Maybe it was a different acronym like STD.
It could be. But yeah, so here's where things start getting really problematic. And this is something that was a hallmark of films right up, and we mentioned briefly the Pink Panther movies, but Hollywood did have a history of one, less than accurate portrayals of other cultures, and two, not bothering with casting them appropriately. And that is on full display in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Full display. And so I some of it could maybe be forgiven for the kind of movie it is, but that's one thing that I think did not age well. And I feel like it needs to at least be mentioned. Yeah. But it was, I'd be curious to know if any Egyptian people from that area actually would enjoy this movie or not.
Little Cairo was definitely a parody of, all the other little, little things from cities. But I could have seen that sort of thing right at home with Naked Gun or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if we were doing full-on parody, I think it would have fit a little better.
I do feel like I think this is where the weakness of this is it doesn't quite know whether to be full-on parody or try to be somewhat of a horror film.
Right.
And it's because it has a hard time fully understanding what it is that it kind of hits wrong. I think that if this movie had gone full parody, if this movie had gone full Naked Gun, they could have even kept the plot somewhat. I think this would have been hilarious.
Right.
all the way through, and or if they decided to dial down the parody fully and make it into a full horror, I think that also could have been really good.
Right. And actually, let's say you had let's say Leslie Nielsen as Joe, and someone like maybe like Bob Newhart as Sweeney. That could have been an interesting, but that would have probably cost a whole lot more. But also, once we really realize how the killer is working, like the mechanism of the plot, you also realize that the title is a lie, because Bloodsucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh, it makes you feel like it's going to be a vampire movie. And I got to admit, I was mildly disappointed to find out. I mean, I knew early on that that's probably not where they were going. But once I was certain of it, I was like, I love the title, and the title doesn't fit, though. So that was disappointing. But
You see, this movie should have taken a clue from oversexed rug suckers from that one.
Oh my lord!
Because that one actually did apply very well to the movie itself,
right.
which I do believe we covered on this channel.
I believe we did.
Yeah, we did.
No, I will say this. I actually enjoy this one more than that one. That one did not live up to its promise, unfortunately. But you're right. It lives up better to the title. It's more appropriate to the title.
I think the vacuum cleaner rape scene definitely did not hold up as it did.
And here I had wholesome stuff on my mind, like Ghost Shark, and how it gives you exactly what you want from that title.
Well, I can never keep things normal.
And you got to admit, any movie that you go in saying, I want a vacuum rape scene, I'm not sure about what kind of person would make that declaration.
So the reason they went to Little Cairo,
yes,
is there's this criminal guy from that area that they suspect is behind a lot of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to this restaurant.
Was he necessarily a criminal? I know his brother was behind the killings before.
It's like some sort of like he dealt with the criminal element or something. He was more of a fixer.
Okay.
And a suspicious person,
Yeah.
somewhat. And so they went to this restaurant where they had this girl that was hired there.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently it was a very odd restaurant where they have roller skates, where they're serving on roller skates in an Egyptian style restaurant.
Uh-huh.
And
they hire someone who literally cannot stand up in roller skates to be their roller skate waitress.
And when they introduce the guy, he's all mysterious and stuff like that. They really flat out red herring this dude to make him seem like the one behind it all.
Not to mention, they kept having him talk to this waitress about how he was going to train her to be this great waitress. And she was into it. She was going on about how she dreamed of becoming a waitress and all this stuff. And
this is where Dee Dee thought she felt an end, because she thought, well, I'll just try and get hired.
Right.
And speak with this guy, which ends up leading to her being captured. And the other waitress, the waitress being killed as one of the victims, because it turned out she was also a woman of the night from Vegas that was transplanted over. Now, this was my thought, was that the guy was actually...
No, the waitress that wasn't the one that got killed next. It was a woman of the night who got killed next.
But the waitress did get killed for that, and she was a woman of the night.
Not the one that we were introduced to in that scene.
Yeah, the one that we were introduced to was originally a originally a prostitute they found from Vegas
Right.
that was transplanted over there. He was giving her another chance to be something that she dreamed of, which was a waitress.
Yeah, no, I mean, you guys have backed me up here if I'm right, and if I'm wrong, I just completely misconstrued it, but I got the impression the waitress we're introduced to in this scene is the one who ultimately is the killer.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah. Because they called her Grace in both scenes. Yeah.
I do believe that the hieroglyphics and everything like that, that they did mention that while they were trying to translate it, that it did seem like it was a kind of ritual. So
Right.
I'm pretty positive that even though it wasn't exactly spelled out, that the spirit of Nefertiti or something Egyptian possessed Grace, and that was ultimately the killer.
I don't think she was possessed. I think she was just kind of
the whole time I just thought that the one dude was actually trying to serve up people to a mummy or something that was going around killing people.
Right.
That was my theory when I was watching it.
I mean, there was someone killed in that scene, which again kind of set up a red herring. We were expecting either Grace or Dee Dee to be the next victim, and someone else was instead. So there was that sort of a weird, little bit
I
there.
did love how those ninja-looking characters they kept bouncing up and down whenever they looked that way. That to me was comical.
That was a fun moment. It's like they're looking at us from over there, off in the corner, but don't be obvious. And they both turn around like as loudly as they can.
Right.
They're just like three shrouded figures in this
Right.
kind of suspicious looking guy. He has the villain mustache. I'm sorry.
Of course, it turns out that all the ninjas that they had were actually female ninjas.
Right.
Yeah, and it turns out the killer was in fact female, so that was a coming of age moment too.
And they were actually working with her apparently, which is kind of interesting. Like the as it eventually turns out that the cook kind of was too. Like the proprietor of the restaurant and the cook had let's say a strained relationship.
So she was okay. So the main villain was looking for revenge.
Right.
But what else was she using that weird recipe for?
Well, basically, she said she reversed the original formula. Like it was supposed to, I guess it was supposed to create eternal youth. And instead, she kind of wanted to punish people to eternal damnation, was my impression of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't clear on what her aim was at the end, other than there was a revenge angle.
Right. I
guess her father was the original killer, and she was kind of continuing his work, but twisted in a way to make it it was pretty unclear in that scene when she's like, here's what I did to the formula,
Basically,
very obscure reference. There's a thing in the Yu Yu Hakusho anime called the spinning tree. It's like a plant that will keep you alive and make you hallucinate some stuff
right.
while feeding off you. So it's just eternal suffering.
Right. And I know, talk about things that don't always age well. I do remember from when I used to be a regular watching Family Guy, there was the episode where someone said, I heard when you die, you go to a place where you think you're alive, but you're actually dead, but death won't come, or something like that. And Chris is like, again? and I just always think of that moment with thing. But my understanding of her motivation, basically her father was the original killer, And his brother, her uncle, had sold him out to the cops, basically. And Joe and Deke were the cops that took him down. So they were the ones she wanted revenge on. That was my understanding of it.
Well, she did get revenge on one of them.
Right.
And
which again, let's mention just how far they went with that red herring. Like, she had him come over to train her to be a waitress. And he's like setting up, basically, it looks like he's setting up to film a sex tape, basically. Is the impression we're getting. And it just gets creepier and creepier until she comes out and turns the tables on him. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, this dude was a creep, but not the way we expected. Yeah.
And then that triggers this very, very long back and forth. Because once they manage to actually get out of it, and the one guy, the asshole detective, manages to finally get over his difficulties.
Right.
Shooting lots of people to death. There's this long chase that happens with the guy's smoker wife with still the electricity in the hair, kind of masquerading as Anubis.
Well, wasn't it? It was the cook, wasn't it? Who looked at her and says, "It's Anubis,"
and she's like, "It's not Anubis." But because of the electronic voice and the electricity in the hair, it was just like that just threw it off just enough for them to get.
And I'll admit, if you didn't know that she was just a bored housewife dying of lung cancer, you'd probably be scared shitless to come across her in this shadowy corridor too.
even convinced her at that point, like, because she moves so fast.
Right. Well, we
like,
see, like, it's weird because, like, she is constantly smoking, but she does make the point earlier of being in shape because she thought that's what Sweeney wanted. And, like, she spends all her time on the treadmill smoking and watching television, but on the treadmill, like, working her ass off. And it pays off in that scene where you're like, holy crap, she's fast.
She was moving
Yeah.
And it was, she does end up letting go Dee Dee because you're like, let her go. But then it's just this long fight between everybody that ends up eventually in the junkyard where the main villainess is crushed to death.
Uh-huh.
It was I felt like that part went on a little bit long, but I mean it did end appropriately.
I kind of want to praise that, because usually, like, when movies have, the big, like, fight at the end, it's not often that it's like what you thought were, like, the two female side characters, like, having that final battle. Like, they were really punching each other pretty hard.
Right.
So I kind of want to,
And
really
they both fall into that compactor, and Dee Dee pretty much climbs on top of Grace to get out. Yeah.
But it definitely ends and with one of them getting crushed, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that would explain the thing with the one cop with Joe, whatever, and having trouble with, like, blood and guts. That would explain near the end when he's cured of it. Like, he gets his face, like, almost right up against her as she's being smashed in the compactor.
Right.
And he's like, I don't want to miss I don't want to miss this. And then when it finally does, like, crush her and, like, the blood flies everywhere, he's like, like a spring rain. And like his, like,
Even one of his partners, like, I can't look at
his
it.
like hemophobic partner.
Doesn't Sweeney end up losing his lunch at the end?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Little bit of a turnaround there.
Like, it is so weird, and oh man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess there was more to enjoy in this than I remembered at first. So that's definitely a plus for this one.
Right.
I'd like to watch an unedited version of this to see a little bit clearer, because I couldn't see a lot of the stuff because mine was more pixelated when I watched it. I mean, the picture I've got here is really clear.
Right.
But maybe if they re-release it, maybe Vinegar Syndrome will.
Well, yeah, it was actually dark in moments, at least to me.
Yeah, actually, I
would
could
love
see
if
Vinegar Syndrome releasing.
there was a company that.
This does feel like it.
Yeah, I
this
could
does
see
feel like it
them
would be a
doing
Vinegar
it too.
Syndrome title.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't see myself paying for prices.
Better than the prices it's at right
Well,
now.
Yeah.
I had originally found this. I had originally found this for like $6.99 at half price on DVD.
I might almost
called
consider
Lucky
that.
13, a movie called Slaughterhouse, and another one called Evil Laugh. I said that before you came on, Dustin. And Vinegar Syndrome has released those two films. So I'm wondering if it's going to be
only a matter of time
on the road. I do know that there is a that there is an all-region Blu-ray out there that supposedly is like really sharp, and I know I eventually want to get it, but it is like around 50 pounds, to get it. So
of course you never know. This may even release on Arrow. I mean, what was that one that we covered?
Especially since the same German company put the Nemesis movies out to MVD or whatever.
Oh, this could be an MVD title. I feel
and
I could say that.
I'm almost wondering if it would come out on the MV. It's with that company, but
then again, of course, even
I also think that the fight scene in the end was a little bit extended, but I did like the fact that both girls could pull punches.
Even that what was that sea monster thing, the Wisconsin one? You remember the one I'm talking about?
Lake Michigan Monster. Yeah, that got released on Arrow right away.
Yeah. So
also, plug for those guys because they're we became somewhat friends after that premiere. Their next one, Hundreds of Beavers, is recently come out. So
sounds fun.
Yeah, I'm planning to check that out pretty soon. I have no clue what it's about, other than I know it delivers on the premise.
It's about hundreds of beavers, right?
Yeah, they got on. They were interviewed by Chapo Trap House about it, which is a very, very popular, like, large podcast that sometimes does movie stuff.
So Brandon, you'll be happy to know, according to IMDb. I was going to say, according to IMDb, Brandon, apparently this movie is alternately known as Picking Up the Pieces. But probably not as much your favorite as that original.
I do need to get that film. But that's on there. There's a region B for Hundreds of Beavers. I've got to get that one of these. I've got to get that one.
Oh my.
I bet there's
Well,
a
it does have a relation.
English American one coming out relatively soon. I would bet it's being worked on.
Yeah, right now Light
Um,
Bulb is the one
It
that's
does have a
releasing it.
relation to the Lake Michigan monster.
It's by the exact same guys.
You're talking about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Hundreds of Beavers is by the
writer.
same guy. That's why I brought it up.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'll have to see that.
Yeah,
It's by the writer, not the director of the Lake Michigan monster.
Yes, it needs an American release.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Maybe Arrow will actually pick it up.
It surprised me when Arrow picked it up the first time. I don't know. I don't understand that, but I'm perfectly happy with it too because I did love the film.
Yeah, every once in a while, they pick up a brand new release. So I think it was definitely one of the more deserving ones.
Alrighty. So
right.
I guess at the end of everything, thing we've talked about the conclusion, right?
Yep.
We pretty much talked out the plot. So I guess we're at production. Correct?
Yeah. Which I will say, Tom Savini's work was definitely more subdued here, but it could also have been the version I watched.
Good point. I hadn't considered that.
So,
and apparently, like I said, IMDb said that they did have to tone it down. So it could be that he wanted to go all in, or even that he did, and they were forced to tone it down afterwards. Like,
I feel like there's an uncut version that could be released in the future. Again, Vinegar Syndrome, somebody could release one. And then maybe I could get a better pick because it did have some interesting gore effects. You could see some Savini touches, but it was definitely a light touch. I agree with Dustin. I think you were the one that said it was more like light Savini.
Some things,
But there were definitely some decent effects. It could definitely have used more of a touch, but it felt low budget. But it had some moments. I mean, I can't knock people in gorilla suits with fire extinguishers.
Had some moments. Dustin, what did you think about the production overall?
Overall, I think everything looked fine. There wasn't anything that I didn't buy or believe. I mean, the gore, like you said, subdued. It looked realistic. In that it wasn't very over the top. Even the blood pit at the end looked believable to me. So, and the only other thing I can really think of were the costuming, and the costuming all was pretty top notch. Because some of the outfits, like the ninjas and our killer were wearing, they could have looked ridiculous, and they did sort of look ridiculous, but they also looked they didn't look cheap. Let's put it that way. It's well, the best example I can think of is Ghostface robes from Scream. There's the $10 Ghostface robe that you can buy at Dollar General on Halloween, and it'll look fine. And then, but if you look up close at the actual Ghostface costume, it is actually very different. It's got a lot heavier materials. It actually opens up in some places. It's almost like a choir outfit because of the way it has because of where the Velcro undoes. It's very expensive actually to get something like that. And the costumes in this, it's oh yeah, just slap some weird pharaoh costume on her. They did not do that. They made something that looks that metal headdress looks that metal colored headdress looks like it's made of metal, So I wanted to praise the costuming there too, and I did. I guess it's
I could
our next
definitely see
topic, but I do like the music as well. The music I thought was pretty great, and a high point.
It's pretty good.
Okay. Jake, what did you think about production overall?
I mean, it was good for what they were going for, I guess. Again, I'm kind of glad that they had to restrain themselves and not go all in on the gore effects and whatnot. But other than that, it was pretty decent for what they were doing. That's really all I have on that.
Okay. Tammy, what did you think about the production overall?
I thought it was pretty decent. You know, it wasn't like totally over the top, and it was, you know, pretty much believable. You know, so and you
Okay.
know, there was some gore, but you know, I've definitely seen things that were a lot gorier.
Yeah. Alrighty. And I think that the production overall was okay. I mean, I like the fact that the kills were different that we saw. I do like overacting. So I do think that the characters in here were, to me, very easy to follow, and definitely an assortment of. I don't know why, but I enjoyed the way that they made Erna's home look like she was overly smoking, like to the fact that she could almost like uh, take and block off that section of the house, you know. And yet she definitely made a lot of interesting vegetarian meals, like pinto beans and papaya. That doesn't even sound tasty.
Doesn't sound too bad.
But and then there was something else that she made, some kind of burger that she yeah, didn't even look appetizing. But that being as said, I mean, it's kind of interesting that they were talking about the Egyptian side of town as if it was like Chinatown, as if we were watching like a parallel world to Two Jakes or something like that, you know?
Right.
Yeah, Egyptian town was crazy. It's not something you typically think of as a
Little Cairo, you mean? Yeah.
But in any case, so I guess we're to the music. I know you kind of touched on it, Dustin, but I'm going to see whether there was an actual soundtrack or whatnot.
I don't know if it was a review, but there was definitely a unique soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing if like someone could actually put that on vinyl or something like that. Music was by Michael Melvoin. Trying to see what he's. Okay, I guess he was a composer and he was an actor known for The Wedding Dates, Something's Gotta Give, and Armed and Dangerous from 1986. Let's see. Music department. Oh, let's see what he was a composer of. Oh, he was a piano player from the Good Shepherd movie. But let's see. Okay, I guess he did 2 episodes of Early Edition. He did the composing music to a movie called Blind Fear from 1989. He did 2 episodes of the original MacGyver, 7 episodes of Fame, which I guess is his claim to fame.
Yeah.
Just looking to see if there was anything else that he might have. Okay, so nothing really of that much of note. So, but yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing this on a soundtrack or even on YouTube just to hear it. So, anyone else like the music like Dustin did and myself?
It was good. I don't remember it all that much, but
It's all right.
Okay. Well, I know you guys are sometimes those who like pay attention to like soundtracks. So,
yeah.
but,
I mean, it had its moments, but overall, it didn't really leave a strong impression for me.
okay. Well, on that note, I guess we're going to go to favorite characters and our favorite scenes. So let's start with you, Brandon. What was a favorite character or characters and our favorite scene or scenes?
Well, I kind of liked the wife, the smoking wife. I also liked that entire process of the quitting smoking thing, especially the part where the plane crashed into the building. I don't know. It just that's if it'll be years down the road, and that will probably be the only thing I remember from this movie, and it'll be well met.
Okay. What about you, Dustin? Favorite character or characters and our favorite scene or scenes?
I think I have to go with our killer because she was just so nuts. Like, and the way she played at being dumb, like when we first are introduced to her as the waitress, like it was like, oh, this poor kid's gonna get killed so fast. And nope, totally tricked me. So I have to give them props for doing that. And as for favorite scene, I think it would be that fight at the end because it's like you can tell it's them doing it. Like it doesn't look like stunt people, and they are really. It looks like they're really like punching each other as hard as they can. Like it was. I am honestly impressed by that, like how well that played because it's like, geez, and like. You know, it could be there is a way to do that where it's like kind of cheap and like low rent because they are both like in skimpy outfits. She's in her like priestess like outfit, and for some reason, when they like tie her down because you know her tears are the last ingredient to the formula, which makes no sense, but whatever. They put her
Tears of a Virgin, Pride, and Sadness, I think it was.
Yeah, and they show her dad like tied up in an Iron Maiden, and that's enough to do it. But you know, I really kind of appreciated that. You know, it wasn't like, oh yeah, girls fighting in bikinis. It's like the fight was visceral enough that I didn't really even realize that until it was kind of almost over. I was like, hey, wait a minute. So that would be my favorite scene. And then of course like all the, you know, chainsawings and whatnot here and there. The various power tools. That was fun. I wanted more of those, honestly. But anyway, yeah.
Okay.
That's for me.
Alrighty. Tammy, favorite character or characters and our favorite scene if you had any.
I think my favorite character was that I guess she wasn't really a detective, she was a meter maid, but you know, that she was the daughter of the detective that came and was helping him.
Yeah.
I got a kick
He
out
was
of
a better
her.
detective than the cops.
So my least favorite scene though is when the killer sucked the puppy up in that thing.
I totally forgot that happened. That was kind of fun. Although, like, what was like more tolerable was like the puppy's just kind of like yipping, and the killer kind of pauses, like, should I? And then, like, after like a couple of beats, it's like, yeah, might as well. And it gets, and you just hear the puppy crying, and it's like, aw.
Yeah, there was no reason to do that to the puppy. Well, that was
I
uncalled
I
for.
think that was a character
to
moment.
me,
that
it was the
moment.
hesitation, and then the I'll just do it. And it's like, wow, what the fuck? But also, it made me laugh.
And then you
wasn't
hear
the
the slurping
puppy
sound.
Yeah, it wasn't that the puppy got hurt that I found funny. It was the like moral dilemma the killer went through.
Right.
Okay. What about you, Jake? Favorite character or characters and our favorite scene?
I guess. I didn't have any characters who were like a strong favorite. I mean, Dee Dee is the kind of character I would normally kind of be a booster for, and I guess you could say I had no problem cheering her on. I kind of liked Sweeney, and I kind of liked the chief of police, and I kind of liked the Sweeney's wife. I'm not really sure that I have a favorite. Favorite scene, though, would probably have to be the aversion therapy sequence with the wife. And just that was great. Those videos were it amused me very much, and I kind of was amused by the way that all that kind of came around at the end, where they thought she was Anubis come to torment them, and I thought that was pretty funny.
Because her face is all wrapped in bandages from like
Exactly.
the therapy.
Right.
And her hair still has the lightning effect, so it gives her kind of like the Bride of Frankenstein look.
Right.
You could almost, because of the chainsaw in it, almost consider this as like a offbeat sequel to Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. But
yeah, I was thinking that the whole time I was watching this movie, and then I was like, I've never seen that. I don't know how, but I've never seen that, so I really want to check that out as soon as I can.
But in any case, my favorite character is hands down Erna. She was hilarious throughout the entire movie, and I think the aversion therapy, the fact that she was always jealous, and the fact that she almost was the hero of the whole thing. You know, the detectives were kind of like bumbling Keystone cops. You know, so to me, Erna saves the day. I could see Ernest going up against her in a movie or something like that. But in any case, but yeah, any scene with her in it was enjoyable to me. So, other than that, did anyone else have anything else to add? Alrighty. So I guess hopefully you ladies and gentlemen have enjoyed our discussion on this film. Definitely go out and see the film. It is a weird film, and I'm hoping that eventually one of these boutique labels pick this movie up and give it a treatment that it kind of deserves, so that other people can see it in its splendor and glory, and maybe it'll also be another lost classic or cult classic that down the road. But
Yeah, I want to reiterate that too, because remember at the beginning, I was just kind of like, I don't know, what was this like? Because it felt like all the pieces were there, but it hadn't like tied together in my head. And then walking through it, as we did the episode here, it was like, this was kind of awesome, yeah. So I have been even more convinced.
Right.
So I am endorsing this, and probably going to revise my letterbox too.
Yeah, I definitely want to see an unedited version of this in the future.
I would definitely love to see it cleaned up at least. But that being said, let's go around the room, tell the audience a little bit about ourselves and what we do. And let's start with you, Dustin. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I collect horror movie stuff here in Milwaukee when I have money, and for the last couple of years, I have not had any of that, so my channel has slowed down. But I have a YouTube channel for the collecting and just kind of whatever, the Crypt of Horrors. I'm working on trying to shorten that to Cryptaxis, so I can actually be found if you search for me. So, go subscribe to the Crypt of Horrors and give me a reason to start trying to make videos again. So I'm trying to figure out a good alternative to doing pickups, because while I do occasionally pick something up these days, it's nothing like it used to be.
Huh? You could always do recommendations, things that you really are into that you think that others should pick up.
I think I'm going to start doing something like that, because I do have like a big box of stuff that I haven't shown on the channel yet. And I would like to do reviews of some of these titles, like as I watch them. But at the same time, that would mean really, I'd want to do like an actual good job of it. So that would mean kind of sitting there with like a notepad and taking notes on. It's like, oh yeah, this feature was great, instead of just always doing it from memory. Like I don't know how to edit, so I always do one take for everything. And there's been a few times where I've tried that, and I mess something up, and the whole thing just feels awkward. There's been times where I've been like 20 minutes into a video and then just restarted because I'm so disorganized. But I definitely want to start making stuff again. So just, go subscribe to the Crypt of Horrors, damn it. And I have an Instagram of the same title, which I am kind of better at making posts on. There hasn't been one for a while, but I'm redoing some of my horror setup. So in a while, I'm hoping to have a room tour or some room tour pics, at the very least on the Instagram, because that's been in demand for a really long time for me. So yeah, there's some stuff happening. I just need to be able to sit down and do it. And you can also find me on Twitter as Cryptaxis, and on Blue Sky now as simply Cryptaxis, CRYPTAXIS, like Cryptaxis. Well, you can see it in the thing. So I'm pretty active on there, and if you ever want to talk about movies with me, just give me a follow, and you will not be able to shut me up. So,
alrighty. Well, heading over to you, Tammy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I go on this channel and another one with David and talk about movies and hear everybody else's opinions and check out movies that I might not have. A lot of them I've never seen before, and I've got my own collection. And right now, that's about it at this time because the summer is over. So that's it.
Alrighty. Heading over to you, Jake. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I am Kotobukijake. I am the co-host of SeptumSin versus the World, and I guess we must have. I think we have a pickup video coming up soon to look forward to, as well as upcoming anime discussion. And
21 item one. If you can scam that much, if you can
oh,
scam that much to it,
I have more than enough to
Yeah.
show off for 21 items. That's no problem. I have way too many backed up in the pile. But anyway, we've been a little more infrequent with that than we'd like, but definitely get a little bit in. And of course, as I say, usually I do keep very busy. I wish there were more hours in the day. I do have a full-time gig, but I try to do a lot of stuff in the meantime. It is NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writers Month, so I'm trying to get some creative writing done. I'm trying to become a little more active in certain other spheres too, because I have so much time. And then, as I mentioned earlier in the discussion, I had a rather fun experience over the weekend. I went to the local theater for a big event where Greg Sestero was presenting The Room and Big Shark, and so got to see those movies, listen to him give some background on them, get him to sign a copy of The Room. So I've got that to present sometime in the near future. Very interesting overall evening. And the weekend before that was the Big Lebowski, where they have a big event for the Big Lebowski, and I finally got to do that. So been trying to get out and do some fun stuff. But I still, make time to watch stuff to join these folks once a week for our discussions. And like I said, I hit a little more schlock films over the weekend than I normally would. Of course, that was counterbalanced with finally watching the end of The Penguin. So I got some quality television in there as well. Dark series, but still. And yeah, so I guess, like I said, just always got something going on, and we'll see what we got coming up. I guess next week we are going to be going in a completely different direction, aren't we?
well, hard to say, really.
Yeah.
It's going to be similar. So, hey.
Yeah. But
All
that'll do for this
Well,
guy.
let's go over to you, Brandon. Why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself and what you do?
SeptumSin, SeptumSin versus the World. We love our physical media. I've had a lot of other obligations, which has kind of kept me from doing a lot of updates on the channel, including things like a trip to Europe, which we are going to. Actually, my wife and I are going to film a couple other videos we were going to film, but we got so desperately sick that we couldn't do our daily updates. So we're going to be doing those, and I'm going to be taking a lot of the film that we made and put some to those. So we're going to show those on the channel, which updates our day-to-day
better now, I hope.
Europe trip, which was really nice. We went to the UK, and we went to Paris. So it was kind of fun doing that. But also, we've been running weekly, every Friday, a new episode of Tabletop Horror has been going on, where Jake and I talk about various films and shorts and TV series that are related to gaming, be it tabletop RPGs or LARPing. And we've been having fun with that one. And this past week was one of the big ones where we covered The Gamers, which was a big one. But also, what's interesting is that this Friday we cover a short that's also called The Gamers. And you get to see something also that's kind of cool. So check it out. There's a definite playlist of the season so far. And we've covered some interesting things from, we're doing it chronologically. So you get to see a lot of cool things from the Satanic Panic times, which is cool. I also am a director of sorts. I have directed 2 shorts for Amityville in a film called Amityville Apocalypse, for better or for worse. I have directed 2 full features, one called the Anhedenia Project, which is on Anhedenia Films, and one called Amityville Webcam. And then next week, Jake and I are getting together to go ahead and film a short that's going to be in the upcoming feature film Amityville Infinity. And hopefully after that, I'm dropping some of the Amityville stuff and look at some of the other projects that I want to do, like Therapy Shark. But I'm also working with Dave to help him finish Tales of the Forgotten 2 first before I move into that direction. So next week will be my pick of things at the end, which is a similar concept as far as humor-wise, which is a film called Boris and Natasha, which is a 90s film, a comedy film, based off of the characters from the Bullwinkle series, but not the Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. Don't get those two mixed up.
Alrighty. Is that it?
Yes.
Alrighty. And my name is David Striggy. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us on this fantastic journey we've been having. We've covered a lot of some of the oddball films that are out there, but we definitely don't constrain ourselves. We like to do a lot of mainstream film discussions and some of the more artsy ones, and I think we have a lot of fun with it. So we're definitely heading into the Christmas season. And do we have our lineup for? Well, actually, I'll ask for that out.
Next week. Well, we'll get to talk about our holiday lineup. You never know, there may be some last-minute substitutions.
After I go on and discuss various films from time to time, I do believe that we're going to be covering next week's Sunday Ring You 2, because I guess we've been heading into a lot of the Japanese horror of films, at least as far as the Ring series goes. So we covered a few outside of the box with Forrest over time, but the last one we did was on Plan 9, the independent remake of an independent movie called Plan 9 from Outer Space. So definitely check out that. And thanks to Brandon, we finished another scene today for the Tales of the Forgotten 2. It's an interesting process. So tiny baby steps to getting the end project done. But that being said, I do some video pickups and some video reviews from time to time, so check some of those out on the channel. I am doing some gameplay of some of the games that I've been playing. I did about a half hour's gameplay of the Tomb Raider remastered set of the Tomb Raider series. So if you want to check out a little bit of that, that's out there on the channel. I've also been playing Layers of Fear a little bit, and I believe I was doing Star Wars Dark Forces for a time, so check some of those out. But I guess, do we have a lineup for December that we can now discuss this week, or did we want to hold off for next week?
We'll keep people in suspense till next week. That way they'll be able to see.
We're gonna keep that for next week. So, on that note, everyone, say good night.
Good night.
Well done.
Good night.
Good night.
Like, share, subscribe.
Mhm.